This is Growth Guide, a podcast exploring the depths of curiosity, questioning everything in the name of growth. I'm your host, Brian D'Alessandro. Keith Wildchild Middleton, always such a pleasure to be here with you.
What's up, my man, Brian? What's up, man?
It's been a while.
A long time, bro.
Yeah, man.
Crazy. That's
and we're
crazy,
connecting
man.
here. I'm in New York. You're in Italy, but you're still representing New York.
That's
I
crazy.
See your hat.
Yeah. You know, I gotta represent.
Well, thanks so much for joining. I've been good. I've been thinking a lot about your world of music and rhythm and movement. And, one of the things when I was preparing for us to chat was I'm really curious of what your earliest childhood memory is of music.
Okay, so I'm telling my age. But man, remember as far back as 2 years old, when my mom for Christmas got me a little tiny baby grand, piano, a little playing piano. And I was on that thing, and then I got an organ. And then when I was 4, I got some drums. And then when I was 5, I got a guitar. And then when I was about 7, my Uncle Charlie he was a flautist. He played all woodwinds actually, but he specialized in flute. And he made a bamboo flute and he gave it to me. Wow. And I was 8, and my Uncle Pepe, Willie didn't get into Pepe. He sent me a cassette player, tape recorder.
Mm-hmm.
The door flips open, you slide in the cassette.
You need like 6 or 8 D batteries.
I know. And I would push record and play and get my guitar and just go. And that was like my first recording. I was like 8, and I was sending it to my uncle, and all the while my mom is like, she's playing music and teaching me about like, Stevie Wonder and John Cage and Weather Report. And, I'm listening to Earth, Wind and Fire and Grand Funk, all these different groups, man. It's like, as a little kid growing up. So that's, 2 years old. 2 years old is what I remember. Yourself?
Oh, that's a good question. For me, I have an interesting relationship there with music. I've always been very visual, and music, my memories of music are more in the car. When we were on, I had a family of 5 kids. So we were, we would get loaded up in the car. And that's when, mom and dad were usually in the front, and they would play CBS FM 101, all the oldies. So, all oldies. Yeah, 101 CBS FM. We play your favorite oldies, CBS FM. So funny, these things, I probably haven't thought of that in a decade or more, and it just it's locked in there. And so my my introduction was to a lot of oldies and classics, Motown, and I wasn't consciously absorbing them, and it was just that's what I had exposure to.
That was your life, right?
Yeah, and my relationship to music for a really long time was really passive. I didn't actively go out and seek like an artist here, an artist there, and it was whatever was around me. And so it was a very passive one. And it wasn't until I got to college where I really started exploring my own, musical attractions. And another thing I remember, because I was having a conversation with a coworker probably 20 years ago. And I was talking about dreams because I had been editing, doing film production and editing a lot. And so I started editing my dreams. While I was dreaming, I would start editing them. And I realized that sometimes I would play with black and white and then some with color. And Kelly Girth, then she says to me, she's like, hey, what about music? And I was just like, wait, what? I like the
Right.
concept of having music in my dreams. She's like, yeah. She's like, I heard, you could bring music into my dreams. And so she started
Right.
doing it and she was able to bring it in. So I started playing
Wow.
with that and I started
Right.
to introduce music into the dream and into this edit, because that's how
Wow.
I was, seeing it in my dreams. And it
Right.
was really cool to start introducing that and realizing I was missing out on that element.
Right. 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 That's wild, man. Cause
What
like
about
it's
you? Do
like
you dream in audio?
and I'm trying to. I I know that I have. I know that I do. Um, Specifically, name something. I don't know, but there are times where I'm on stage, I'm performing with my band, and and the crowd's reacting, and I'm doing my thing, and like that type of thing. But going to what you were talking about when you were like, one of five in the back of the car, and there's music playing, and you're traveling, it becomes the soundtrack to your life, right?
Absolutely.
And then that is a way to segue into the soundtrack to your dreams. And like you have your dream state, and then you have your waking state, then you have your elevated state, right? So in your dream state, that becomes part of its whole like manifestation. You know what I'm saying? It's
Mm-hmm.
like, eh, and I really feel like we're all musicians at heart, especially we're all rhythmic.
Mm-hmm.
My theory is the first thing that we hear when we're in mom's womb is her heartbeat, right? That's rhythm, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the heart. You know, it's like symbolizes love, right? So for me, rhythm is love, right? And rhythm is communication, right? And so just depending on just going back to what you were talking about, your upbringing, whether or not if within your family structure, if you guys, you know, cultivate that, that language, that first language that you speak, you notice babies, they bang on stuff all the time. They're communicating. I find that like fascinating. I really do. It's like it's just that thing that connects us all. I don't care where I've been. I've been in India, Singapore, Serbia, all these places, Italy. I don't speak these languages, Japan, I don't speak these languages, but everybody understands that pulse, that rhythm, that syncopation, because that's where we come from. That's what we
Mm.
understand. We forget that because we learn languages, right? Like vocal languages, like English, Japanese, Germany, German, France, French,
Mm-hmm.
wherever you're from, you learn those respective languages. And then depending on your family, if you guys are musical family, then you also speak that language. But if not, then you listen to the music in the car, on the stereo, on the hi-fi.
Right, or a relative who introduces, or a friend. But I want to stick on this tip of relating language and music, because I think it's a really fascinating one. When I
Yeah.
when I think about it, music is something that's felt. It's energy in motion. It's much more emotional, right?
Right,
When
right,
we're talking about language, language is while it's audio, it is filtered through the mind. Like the brain is processing that before
right,
you get your feelings.
right,
And so it's a very different thing. There's an intellectual filter that it goes
right,
through. And with
right,
language, I mean, I see words as containers and they
right,
carry their meaning, but the meaning is living, it's not static. So throughout
right,
time or geography, what a word means in one country is different than what it means in another country because it's relational. And so there's this
right,
complexity there and this need to decipher. Whereas music, it's just energy moving, and that's something that you feel. And I love the
right,
simplicity and that primal nature of it.
right, right. It's innate. It's fundamental, right? It's like our first mode of communication. Really, really. Anytime I teach like a body percussion workshop, people come to my class expecting that it's like a dance class. And I'm like, well, it's not really a dance class. I'm just really just reintroducing you to something that you were born with, you know, you just like forgotten, or you just didn't really pay that much attention to, you know, because we all walk in rhythm, we talk in rhythm, we eat, we think in rhythm. Everything we do, if we're driving in a car and it's raining, the raindrops on the windshield, right? That becomes a rhythmic pattern. We notice that, right? The windshield wiper. We notice that. Everything that we do is rhythmic. It's just that whether or not we pay attention to it, that's another thing. That's what I learned from Stomp, being a
Mm.
Stomp.
What do you think it is that people, that causes people to lose touch?
I just think it's, your surroundings, right? We become products of our environment, right? So if your environment is um such that, music and rhythm is enriched, then that, if you have access and resources to, further that and push that along, then yeah. But if not, there might be something else, some other type of activity, maybe some other art form, but I do believe it's innate. I do believe because it's, we hear it everywhere. Birds singing, chirping, it's everywhere, man.
And then there's such simple things we can do. Our
Mm.
collaborations that we did at events and creating experiences around that, those were all so inspiring for me to be a part of and to see that in action and to really,
Yeah,
get those in my life. And so I'm really interested in those ways that we can bring music back into our lives. And like even a simple one you said, like, yeah, the birds singing, you notice a sound and you hear, wow, all right, I like that. That feels good. Get some bird feeders, hang them up. Like we did that this winter and hung up like,
yeah.
first we hung up one, like these suet
Uh-huh.
blocks, and
Uh-huh.
all of the, the blue jays came in like in, dozens and dozens. And then we realized, all right, there were other birds that wanted, but they were encroaching on the blue jays territory. The blue jays are like these warrior birds. They're really
Yeah, yeah.
dominant. So
Right,
there were
right,
these like black cap chickadees, these little guys, which have good chirps to them. And so we
right.
decided, all right, let's put one lower in another
Yeah.
tree tucked away somewhere
Uh-huh.
else. And so started
Right,
bringing them in. And, I didn't realize it at the time, but we started to make this musical symphony
right,
by
right.
attracting these different birds. And that was a
But
way
you
to play.
see, but do you see that though? It's not that you're just like bringing the birds in, right? You're also communicating with them.
Mm.
You know what I mean? It's like, and they appreciate that. They come around. They know they're gonna get fed, and they're happy, and they express themselves. You know what I'm saying? It's like full circle.
Yeah, and then
And
I mean,
and
even just going deeper, I see how it affects it ripples out to the rhythm of our day, our morning, right? So once those birds come out in the morning, then we have two cats. Then the cats become really interested in what's going on out there. So,
right, right,
they're either telling us they want to go outside to see if
right,
they can get a piece of that action, or, they just stand by the door. But it definitely affects it. And so I love
right,
that
right,
relational quality of it.
right, right. It definitely heightens the mood, and starts the day off really, really nice, really nicely. Man. Nature.
Yeah, it's one of the simplest ways I've found to, come back into a natural rhythm, whether it be musically or just in our, natural rhythm.
Yeah,
Um,
bro.
let's go into, more about movement. So, what does movement mean to you?
Movement, is it's both tangible and intangible, right? Movement is progress. Movement is life. Movement is necessary. You know, I don't mean to be poetic, but movement is poetry.
Mm.
Movement is life. Movement is breathing. It's air. It's it's also it's necessary. If you're talking about like within in terms of like art form or dance, then it's probably if probably one of the oldest means of uh, storytelling and communication, right? Of an emotion, or something that happened, you know, something that, will entertain, will also educate, you know, will also log in history, you know, like a dance movement in dance. Yeah.
It's interesting when you start looking at all of these different threads as forms of movement, whether it be our history, um, our experiences over time, and how they're recorded. And
Mm,
uh, we're so bound often by space and time, but when we step out of that and really experience that full journey, or even just looking at our life cycle, right, where we're so bound in our thinking and feeling around our life and the period of time we're alive and how long we expect to be alive, and we can
right.
lose context of this greater unfolding.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, you definitely seem, and correct me if I'm wrong, to take a really spiritual approach to your music. Um, you want to talk a bit about that?
Oh, wow. Um, so I was with the show Stomp for, I don't know, almost 20 years, right? During that time, prior to that time, I was making hip hop music and I was going to the New York weekend. I was like, spitting bars with my group, my brother Blitz, who has an album out. I'm shameless plug. He has an album out produced by Knots. Guys, get it. It's called The Sixers with him and the Bassy. And then my other partner, G, who has another project coming up. But G, myself, and my brother Blitz, we be, making music. And then I got Stomp, and then I started looking at things different.
How did that come about?
Oh man, okay, so I'm gonna make it really brief, but because I'm in New York and because I was doing things. I was working for a DJ company, and in that company there were dancers and MCs and musicians and stuff like that. And we do these parties, and we formed a little bond, and then somebody hear about an audition and they tell us, we all go and audition for whatever, Rent or Cats or whatever it was, man. We go and audition.
Hmm.
Um, and then I saw Stomp on a date, on a hot date, right? And then because I was interested, I was in Manhattan and I saw an ad on Manhattan cable, and I saw these dudes just throwing garbage cans at each other. I was like, what is that? Yeah, it said Stomp. I was like, I only caught that much, right? I was like, what is that? I went to check it out. I was like, it's at the Orpheum. It was okay. So it's like Lower East Side, right? St. Mark's and Second Avenue. I was like, all right, I know where that's at. So we went, and I was like, I loved it. I was like, oh my God, I was blown away. So I went to work that weekend with the DJ company, and I told all the dancers, I was like, oh guys, I want to start the show and Stomp and blah blah blah, and garbage cans and brooms and this and music out of everything, and and anything. They was like, oh well, we know about that. I was like, oh, you guys saw it? It was like, nah, we auditioned for it. I was like, you guys auditioned for that? I was like, man, I wish somebody would have told me. I was like, because I would have loved to have had that experience. Like, how do you audition for Stomp? Like, what do there's no traditional or conventional instruments. Like, what do they do when you audition? They was like, well, we didn't get it, so you wouldn't have got it. That's what they said. So I took that. I was like, okay, I was 22, 23. I was like, okay, Then a month later, I heard they were holding auditions again, and they were inviting people who tried before to come back. So I told them all, and they was like, nah, you go. And I went and I got it on the first day. And that taught me the first lesson I learned was never let anybody else's fear, or I don't want to say failure, but just like they couldn't do it, or they didn't get picked, let them, influence whether or not you try, because we're all unique individuals, right? We all have our own special talents, right? So I went out there and I drummed, so I picked up the sticking and I moved, and the audition called for dancers with percussive skills or percussionists who move well. I was like kind of in the middle. I never had an actual lesson for any instruments. I just had them and just like figured it out. So same thing. I got the stomp and I just figured it out. You know what I mean? So that's how I got that. So I was doing the show and we moved to Vegas because they wanted to open the show out there, big mega show, which was like my favorite version of the show. And I know I had to go to physical therapy because I had surgery on my knee from an injury. And I was on my way there and I stopped at this intersection. There was a car ahead of me and it's me. And I'm, just listening to my music and I'm waiting for this car to make a left. And all of a sudden I hear, I look at my rearview mirror and then boom, this car hits me from behind. I black out. I wake up and my car is spinning. I'm spinning. Then it stops. And I'm like, what happened? What's going on? And then I noticed that this seat and the two seats behind me were all crushed and on top of me. And I'm looking at my dashboard, it's crumbled and the windows are broken in and like my car actually folded in on itself. I'm like, why am I like, wasn't coherent. Then I realized something bad happened. I need to get up out this car. And I couldn't move. And I was like, oh my God, this is it. What am I gonna do? So then I was like, I don't know if anybody's ever had, I don't know if anybody's ever had like a near-death experience, man, but you get like, I was really calm. I don't mean to get emotional about this,
No,
but
let it flow.
I was very calm and I was really cognizant of like my people. I was like, they love you. They they love you. You know that they know that you love them. It's okay. So I just let go because I couldn't move. I was trying to will myself to get up, but I just couldn't. So I let go. I was like, this is it. So I let go. But I woke up in the hospital like hours later. And luckily, I only had like minor, like I had a cracked rib, I had head trauma, which was like really bad. But other than that, it was cool. So I made a vow to myself that anything that I said that I was going to do in my life, I was going to pursue, to its fullest, right? So the answer to your question is whether if my music reflects a certain aspect of spirituality, yes, indeed it does, because that 3 days later after my crash, I made my friend and my best friend, I met best, and my wife at the time, I made them take me to Guitar Center, and I bought a brand new keyboard, and then I locked myself in my studio, and I just kept just making music and just writing poetry and taking long walks as I'm healing, and I stopped taking the medication because I felt like it was hindering my uh, rehabilitation. Like my mental state was like so foggy. I don't even remember. This happened in 2008. So that year, January 15th is the date. And I don't remember anything that year, the following year. It's like you asked me, I couldn't tell you unless I saw a picture, and I'm like, oh, okay, I think I kind of remember that.
Mm.
But when you get into a crash like that, I got hit from behind and pushed into oncoming traffic, and then another truck hit me right away as soon as I,
Jeez.
on, and so that's why my car folded up into itself, right? And that guy, he went through his windshield. So, but I think he's okay. I don't even know. I don't even know about the other parties involved, but yeah. So I got a second chance, and so now everything I do, you know, revolves around that. So put my best foot forward and make sure it's on my heart is always in it, and it's always a message. I stopped taking that medication because I couldn't remember things and I couldn't control this hand. I kept doing
Mm.
this and I kept stuttering like this. I was talking like that. I had to go to speech therapy, all kinds of stuff.
Wow,
So I
must have been
really take
terrifying.
it was for me. I always felt like I'm gonna get through this, but people around me who knew me and they saw this, they was like, "This is a totally different person. This is a different person." But internally, I felt like I wasn't any different. It's just gonna take me a little longer to stand up and become the Keith that everybody was familiar with. This phase of Keith is just me, just relearning myself, kind of like when people come to my workshops, I'm reintroducing them to something that they was born with. Rhythm. I had to reintroduce myself in this to the world that you know nourished me, and so because I stopped taking the medication, I would have to write things down to remember them, and I try to remember things in my life that made me feel good. So I made a list, and as my memory would get better, the list would increase. And I took all those things in my list and I made a, a poem out of it. And then from that poem, it became a song. And it was the first single and video for my first album, Transitions. And it's called Feels Good. The end.
Or the beginning.
Yeah, definitely the beginning, man. Definitely the beginning. So,
Wow.
I use that I use that experience um as a catalyst, you know, for everything that I do.
Yeah, just hearing the different tools you called upon, within yourself is
Mm,
really remarkable as well. You have
mm,
this, and I look, I know you from after that time, and just as a larger than life, full of love and positivity, and just
mm,
exuding that in every, ounce of your being. And hearing how went to, all right, I don't have memory, that could have snowballed into panic, anxiety, and fear and anger, and all these
right,
negative energies.
right.
But you instead said, I've got to remember what makes me happy. What do I feel?
Yeah,
And you
yeah,
made that list, and the way you describe it, it sounds like that just started taking on this life of its own and feeding itself and getting bigger and bigger. And
yeah,
it reminds me of that whole that saying that the seed that you water grows.
yeah. Definitely, definitely, my brother. If anybody's listening and watching, you know, take it from me, man. Don't, life is not promised, so every day, you must listen to your heart, listen to the rhythm of your heart because your heart gives you it's your first mode of communication. It's communicating love to you, right? And it's telling you, I really love music. I really love, preparing food. I want to be a chef, but I do accounting or I do web design or whatever it is, if it's something that you feel passionate about, I would say put some effort into that because that's where you're going to feel good. You're going to find happiness within that.
Hmm.
We can't, you know, we're people too, and we were talking about doing jobs that we don't like. I've done those, you know, but you don't become the job. That's just a means, to get to the next level, the next step that you want to, you know, obtain, the next thing you want to acquire, next skill, So yeah, man.
It makes me think of it all in terms of movement since we've been talking about it. And, you don't need to, if you want to be doing something your heart's telling you, you don't need to have it figured out. You don't need to know what it looks like. Just move in that direction. Even when you talk about when you got, caught by this Stomp ad and something was
Right,
sticky for you and you're like, interesting. You shared it with
right,
people who happened to audition with it. Well, you could have
right,
taken it as a sign, like when they said, nope, and you'll never
right,
make
right,
it. You've been like, oh
right,
fuck, okay, door's closed. But you
right,
didn't. You
right,
you kept on listening, and then you heard of
right, right,
auditions and followed it. And you know, point is that we don't know where these roads are going to lead, and they might end up somewhere completely different. But if we're following the heart, I do believe that it brings us where we need to be, and it brings the lessons along with it.
right. Totally, man. I really believe that, man, wholeheartedly. You know, I speak about that in my live shows with my band. I speak about it when I'm teaching, my body percussion workshops and stuff.
Yeah, and you've
Mhm.
you've followed it, and you've kept on following it. You're now in Italy. You have a band that you have two of your members there. Levels is the name of your
Right.
new band. Would love to hear
Yes,
about
sir.
that journey.
I was touring my album. This was like 2014, 2015. I had a opportunity to come to Milan, Italy, and perform the album, and also teach uh, a body percussion workshop at a for a full week. And then at the end of that week, I would give a live show. I thought it'd be really great if, instead of me bringing a band with me, I would utilize the students from the school. So I I pitched it to the folks over there, and they were like, "Oh well, how about you use the professors and some of the students?" I was like, "All right, cool." So I became really cool with the professors, right? So Luca Macias and Jacopo Mazza, and we became like brothers. And every time I came out to Italy, we would perform. We set up some gigs and we perform in like Milan or Rome or Aosta, wherever, man. We perform it. And then I was like, we should make a band, and that's how that started. And then we did like a quick like GoFundMe or Kickstarter campaign and crowdfunding campaign, and and it was successful in Italy. So we got the guys to fly to New York, and we recorded a bunch of stuff. And at the same time, I was like, we need a vocalist because I write, but I don't sing. I rap, but I don't sing. And the songs I was writing, we needed a really good vocalist. And so another Stomp performer by the name of Aaron Marcellus, who also happened to have been a finalist for American Idol, right? I said, "Yo, Aaron, what's up, man? You wanna, come by the studio, hang out with the fellas, and see what's going on?" So he came by um to 30 Below, which is at Rogue. If you guys are in New York and you know Rogue Studios, Brent McLaughlin is my main man over there. Okay. So if you need a really nice, comfortable studio, that's where you go. Anyway, so he came down and we just vibed, and the guys fell in love with each other. It's been us, us four the whole time, man. You know, the whole time, man. We played Japan, we played Italy, we hit LA, we hit New York. We had so much fun, man. And then COVID was like, that's it.
And that
No
was
more
right
for
after
you.
your album, right?
We dropped the album late like the last day of August. I'm gonna say late August. I'm gonna say September 1st, August 31st. We dropped the album, and we were set to, after we went to the Grammys in January, and then we were set to promote the album, throughout Europe, do a nice tour through Europe. Then we were supposed to hit Vegas in LA in midsummer, and at the end of the summer we were supposed to go to Japan, and then we were supposed to hit Philly and the East Coast, and then end um, at Lincoln Center in December.
Mm.
Yeah, and we had all these write-ups and all these great reviews, and we got the front cover of a magazine, the IC magazine, the Independent Music magazine. Got the front page of that, the whole band's on it, and then we had a 9-page spread, with colors and us at our, performing and people going crazy and dancing, and we were so psyched, man. And then everything just stopped, but things are getting better.
You mentioned that your bandmate had American Idol experience, and I know your son Qasim did as well. I'm so
Yeah,
fascinated about that. We were talking a little bit earlier about
yeah.
bringing music into, our upbringing. How have you done that with your children?
Okay, yeah. So Kasim, all my children, I have 3 sons, starting with Kasim, and then we have Khalil, and then I have my youngest, his name is Makai. And we come from, a very like warm, big, warm family that is nothing but music and laughter, and real loud and robust, and just it's just an abundance of art coming from all generations. We have my oldest, uh my great uncle Clarence Collins, right, who was the creator of a group called Little Anthony and the Imperials. These guys sang all the old oldies, Tears on My Pillow, Shimmy Shimmy Cocoa Pop, just 2 types of people in the world, Hurt So Bad. These guys were Clarence and Anthony and Sammy and Ernest. Those dudes were like, what I'm saying, the boy band back then, right?
Mm.
So they're teenagers making all this money and stuff like that. And then his nephew, who was actually like 8 years younger, but he's like, they're brothers, right? Is Pepe. And Pepe was under Clarence, and Pepe would go on tour, and he would learn and meet all these people from Motown, and start a relationship, and we start writing music for different groups. And he moves to California, and then he meets a young lady, and she's from Minnesota, and she's like, okay, I want to move back to Minnesota. So he says, okay, whatever. And they move to Minnesota, and she says, I got a cousin. He's 14. He's got a band. Want you to meet him. He says, okay, maybe you can help him, guide him, whatever. He says, okay, no problem, no problem. Goes over to the garage, and the kids are jamming, and he goes in. He says, and he stops, and he says, hey, how you doing? You guys sound great. He says, I'm Pepe. And the cousin goes, hi, my name is Prince. And then Pepe was like, is that your name? He was like, yeah, that's my name. That's my name. That's my real name. This is Morris Day, and this is Andre Simone, and this is, and all of these
Holy
kids were
shit.
teenagers. And Pepe was like, you guys are jamming, you guys are bad. Come to my studio, let's record. So Prince would, he's his cousin, so they would come over and they would jam. And that's how that relationship started. And Pepe would take him to different labels and stuff, and then he got him his deal at Warner Brothers. Um, he managed them for a short stint, but then he passed them off because Pepe's thing was producing, music. He's a musician, writing and stuff. So we have that history: Clarence, Pepe, and now there's me. Pepe was the one who sent me that little tape recorder, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I always wanted to be like him. And Pepe always wanted to be like Clarence, right? And so with my kids, and their mom, like I was married twice. So My first wife, we had the two boys, Kasim and Khalil, and she's a vocalist. She's a singer. She has a big history in that world, and so she's always providing them with music. And my end, we always provide them with music, and so yeah, the kids, man, they just grow up in it. They're sponges, you know. And so he goes and he gets a gig for the Naked Brothers band. He's on Nickelodeon, and he's one of the main characters. And from then he goes, he does maybe a Netflix thing, the Get Down. He does the Get Down.
He was on
Like
the
he
Get
and
Down?
Khalil, yeah, he and Khalil did the Get Down. They did the Get Down. And then um American Idol, right? Yeah. And
What was
then
that like?
Khalil, oh, that was a crazy experience, man. And for me, I got, I don't want to get into the politics of it because there's loads of politics within that. I just know that those kids, those young people that are in it to win it, are really putting their entire being into, their performance and preparing for it, and you know everything becomes focused on that. And I was noticing the divide and how people would write in these really wicked things, about the performers, right? Maybe their performance they didn't like, and so they would say really mean things, and or they didn't like them because of their parents, so they say really mean things. And then you got a lot of racist things that were said. And so I really got to see a part of the world that I didn't really try and take notice of.
Mm.
You know, I knew it was there. I dealt with it all my life, but I didn't think that my children would, to this extent or this level. It was like turned up to like 1,000. And so I found myself reading these posts and then writing back, to these people, but not attacking them, you know. And I'm like, these kids are focused on this thing, and they're really just trying to do their best to entertain you, right? They're following their dreams, they're following their heart, right? Their heart told them that they can do it. Their families and friends are supporting them, right? So if you don't like that artist or that kid, that child, a lot of them were like 16, 17 years old, they're kids.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't like them, they read this stuff, man. They read this, and I would write this. I was like, you guys calm down. If you don't like them, you don't need to say you don't like them. You can say something constructive and then vote for the person you do like. That's how you speak on that. You don't want that person to win, you want this person to win. A lot of people would write back and be like, wow, I didn't really think like that. Thank you. A lot of apologies came my way. Some people,
Mm.
not so much, but for the most part, people were like, I apologize.
It reminds me of when you were talking about when you were recovering from the accident, and you cultivated this positivity of remembering the things that brought you happiness and joy. It's, we can feed that or we feed the negativity. And like, it's an interesting question of what makes somebody focus on what they don't like about something rather than what
Right,
they do like about it.
right, right.
Like, we have the choice. I mean, does focusing on the thing you don't like make you feel any better? I don't think so. So it's such an interesting one.
I just correlate that with my experience with the auditioning and telling my friends that they were holding these auditions, and we went, we didn't get it, you wouldn't have got it, just putting their own thing onto me, you know,
Mm-hmm.
instead of just being constructive. They could have said, we tried it, they're going to ask you to do this, that, and that, right? So be prepared.
Right. Right.
You feel me? But no, they didn't do that. They didn't say they gave me no details on what to expect. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
it sounded
so
like there was a little bitterness even.
that's what I'm saying.
These competitions, by the time it gets to TV and somebody's watching it, the viewers have no idea what these contestants have been through just to get to that
Yeah,
point. Because
exactly.
I was going up for this slot in this show only lasted for one season. But Steven Spielberg had a new
Hmm.
show called On the Lot, and it was for
Hmm.
young directors, film
Wow.
directors. And
Hmm.
so I got into that somehow. I don't even remember how I got introduced to it, but I
Hmm.
started going through these rounds of auditions, and you
Hmm.
get a project they'd send you, you'd have to create it within a week, send it back to them, and then you started doing some in-person interviews, and there was this whole thing, and the emotional roller coaster ride of it was insane. And I got down
It
to the
is.
last round before the show. It was the final 50 people, and I think
Right.
they selected 25 of us from there,
Right. Right. Right.
and so I didn't get in. But the emotional roller coaster ride that I had been on up until that point, and then realizing, holy shit, the people that are then getting through, the next step was you get flown to LA, you live there for 2 months, and it's all the filming and everything. And even
Right.
and then even after you get disqualified, you have to
Hmm.
stay there because they don't want anything to get leaked. And so it was like,
Right.
even after you get disqualified, you still can't even go and return to your life. You have to be there in
Exactly.
flux. So
Right.
I just can't even imagine what these kids go through.
To think about that, because I would write these folks, and I'm like, exactly that. Like, you have no idea what they have to go through. It was like, first of all, they have to have enough courage to audition. They have to have the tenacity to wait, right? And then they have to perform in that small room, you know, and then if they get bumped up to the next level, then they got to perform, you know, a live, you know, the panel of these superstar judges, a full audience, right? And then they're performing for people watching, the viewers, right? On
And not just
television or
watching,
whatever,
but voting on them.
and voting. And then on top of that, they're bonding with each other. These kids are making friends. So now, and some of them knew each other already. So they're competing against their friends. You know what I mean? I was like, it's like
Mm-hmm.
that's really heavy, right? And then on the other end of that, there's the politics of it, right? It's like that they're not telling the kids. It's not for
Mm-hmm.
me. For me, my interpretation of those shows is it's not really an actual game show. You know what I mean? I think the producers already know or predetermine who they want.
Yeah, talent gets you so far, and then there's a lot of casting and drama and
Yeah,
all the
man.
other
Yeah,
stuff that
yeah,
goes
yeah,
along. That's why, I
yeah,
was
yeah,
really refreshed when The Voice came out. I haven't
yeah.
watched in a long time, but I love that they
Mm-hmm,
flipped it where it wasn't about, competition and judging. It
mm-hmm.
was about, okay, who am I going to select to mentor? Who's going to be on my
Right.
team? Because it's so easy to
Exactly.
be the critic, to be the judge. But
Right.
what if we shift into that mode of how can we be creators together? How can we,
Right.
both be vulnerable to being a creative? Because
Right.
that's where the positive and the magic is. And any of
Yeah.
the judgment, it's just that's easy.
Yeah.
Anyone could do it.
Yeah. I like that too because you have people who are successful as the mentors. You know what I
And they were
mean?
still in the game.
Yeah, and he's still in the game. So I just watched something on YouTube the other day with like Jennifer Hudson, mentoring one of the contestants, and I'm just like, wow, and her story was she didn't even make it to as a finalist on American Idol,
Mm.
and no, and people voted against her, but now she's like Jennifer Hudson. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? She's got Grammys. I think maybe she has an Oscar also for Dreamgirls.
Yeah, I
So
think she does.
she's a superstar, man, a super mega star. She followed her heart. She didn't believe, you know, in anything else other than she could do it. It's in her to do it, you know.
Yeah, that mentorship part is so important, and I feel like, in today's day and age, it's so easy to for that to fall away because everyone is so busy and just moving at 1,000 miles a minute. I just watched the new Biggie documentary
Oh wow,
on
yeah, yeah, I got a story
Netflix.
to tell.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
that was fascinating, and just hearing, because you, even as a New Yorker, you think you know what, his story was to a degree, and man, it gave a whole other level. And how he was
right.
mentored by, I forget who the jazz musician was, but there was a
Mm.
famous
Right, right,
jazz
right,
musician that lived right
right,
near
right.
him and ended up
Hmm.
mentoring him because he was mentored by,
Hmm.
some of the older players in the game. And you
Right.
know that shaped his, his whole style of flow, his rhythm, his cadence. And just, and also this guy would bring him to the museums and nurture these
Right.
aspects that wouldn't have otherwise been fed. And so I think
Right.
it's such an important and beautiful part of the experience, but it also allows aging artists to be plugged into the youth. And I think that's a
Hmm.
really, really fascinating part of it as well.
It is. Uh, you know, with my kids, we would drive to school, and you know, every day on the way and coming back, I pick a genre, and we're playing this music. So if we're playing, jazz, today is we're doing bop, you know, and we're driving, and I would always question, them and be like, okay, who's the artist, and what's the title of the song, and it got to the point where the kids were like competing to find, with each other, whoever got it right, we would stop at the donut shop or something like that.
Mhm.
And so I just remember the youngest, Khalil must have been like 6 years old. He's gonna Kasim and Khalil gonna hate me for telling this story, but this is part of the game, right? This is like nurturing the kids, like you know, Kasim, he said James Baldwin, right? And Khalil started laughing. He was like, James Baldwin, James Baldwin, Kasim, he's an author. Name me one song James Baldwin did. I'm laughing. We all laughing, because he was just, he's just being funny. He threw it out there. But I said, okay, Smarty Pants. So, who's the, what's the title of the song? And he wrote it. He said that's Brilliant Corners, Thelonious Monk, right? And he's like
Mm.
6 years old. You feel me? So it's like it's that, man. It's that you hand it down. It's your responsibility. You gotta get these kids, up to speed. You gotta keep them like informed with where they came from, the music, culture, your history. You know, you gotta, instill pride in them, especially these black kids. We gotta do this for our children because we got a system that's indoctrinating these folks, and treating their indoctrination as a privilege and a right, and we're not allowed to question or test that. And then our subjugation is warranted, and we're
Mm.
not allowed to, protest about it. You know what I mean? So it's our responsibility, our duty at home to instill into our children, to motivate them and teach them to follow their heart and give them all the knowledge so that they can develop these strategies and they can execute those strategies and immerse themselves around, forward moving people, and develop communities. And
Hmm.
I could preach all day, bro, but
Good. Keep going. It's such an important message. I mean, because look at the alternative. If we don't, we get indoctrinated by our school systems, by our media and news outlets, by TV and all this content that's being pushed at us. And then even worse, social media. All of this nonsense that everyone is spewing on social media platforms gets taken
right,
as truth, and it starts to inform our youth. So I think it's
right.
so important that people are getting instilled with this history and connection to what really matters.
Yeah, it's important, man. Things will change, man, but we just gotta, maintain the momentum and then pick it up, and on the way picking up the momentum, we we pick up allies, people in positions of power that's going to make actual change, within, infrastructure, politics, social structure, economics, music, we need folks to push the music envelope.
Yeah, the
Um,
arts in
I'm
general.
Yeah, definitely. I'm online and I'm part of a lot of different little groups. I'm a voting member for the Grammys, right? My first album, Transitions. If you don't have it, get it. My first album got me into voting member status at the Grammy. So I'm part of these different groups, right? Within, the Grammy community, right? And the independent labels and the independent artist communities. And I'm noticing how folks are so uptight with this last performance and the politics of it all. And,
Mm.
and so they're developing this momentum and, joining forces with that group over there and this group over there, and they want to implement change. That was my point. So, it's there's strength in numbers, and as long as you have integrity, and drive, you can develop these communities for change.
That's what we
That
need
was my
now.
point.
Awesome, man. Well, Keith, thank you so much, man. This has been a total blast. I really
Thank you, brother. I
appreciate it.
appreciate it, man. Yeah, man. It's been a long time, bro.
Thanks for joining us this week on Growth Guide. A big thanks to our sponsors. This episode is sponsored by Project New You. I'm a huge fan of their Nitrovite nootropic brain supplement. It's helped me to develop laser focus, a better memory recall, and motivation. Nitrovite has helped me in launching this podcast amongst completing many other projects. Visit growthguide.love/focus to learn more and use promo code GROWTH for 15% off. This episode is also sponsored by the upcoming film Thrive 2. This is what it takes. A follow-up to the 2011 hit Thrive, which is one of the most widely viewed documentaries in history with over 90 million views. If creating a better world matters to you, don't miss it. Visit growthguide.love/thrive. Make sure to visit our website, growthguide.love, where you can find freebies, exclusive content, and subscribe to the show so you'll never miss an episode. If you found value in listening, I'd really appreciate a rating on iTunes. I can't tell you just how important this is. Or spread the love. Tell your friends, your fam, heck, tell your spirit animals. And follow me on Instagram at growthguide.love. Be sure to tune in next week for our newest episode.